It was a warm and quiet afternoon in a peaceful suburban neighborhood. The sun hung low in the sky, casting soft golden light across the streets. A 16-year-old black boy named Malik strolled down the sidewalk with his hands in his pockets and music in his ears. He was heading to the local convenience store to buy some chips and a cold drink. He was dressed simply, jeans, sneakers, and a clean white t-shirt. But what stood out most was his baseball cap. The hat was dark blue with red stitching. It wasn't just any hat. It had belonged to Malik's late father, who passed away just 1 year earlier. His mother had cleaned it, fixed the torn threads, and gifted it to Malik on his birthday. For Malik, it wasn't just a cap. It was a memory, a piece of love he still carried from his dad. As Malik entered the small corner store, he gave a polite smile to the clerk, Mr. Patel, who nodded back. Malik quietly walked down the snack aisle, taking his time picking out his favorite chips. He didn't notice the black and white police car that had pulled up outside. 2 officers stepped out, Officer Daniels, a tall man with a strong build, and sharp eyes, and Officer Stevens, shorter and younger but quick to act. They had been patrolling the area when they spotted Malik walking into the store. Their eyes immediately landed on his hat. Daniels muttered, "That's the gang cap we were warned about." Stevens replied, "Could be. Let's check it out." They entered the store quickly without greeting anyone. Malik had just grabbed a soda from the fridge when he heard a sharp voice. "Hey, you!" shouted Officer Daniels. Malik turned around slowly. His heart skipped a beat when he saw the officers staring directly at him. He pulled out one of his earbuds and said, "Yes, officer." "What are you doing here?" Daniels demanded. Malik blinked. "Just buying some chips, officer." "Where'd you get that hat?" asked Stevens, now walking closer. Malik touched the brim of his cap. "It's mine. It was a gift from my mom." Daniels narrowed his eyes. "That hat is gang-related. Are you a part of something, boy?" "No, sir," Malik said softly. "I don't even know what you're talking about. I just came here to buy snacks." The store clerk, Mr. Patel, looked up from the counter, sensing tension, but stayed quiet. Officer Stevens walked in a circle around Malik like a wolf. "ID, now." I don't have it on me. I live just a few blocks away." "Convenient," Daniels snapped. "Hands where I can see them." People in the store began to notice. A woman picking up milk froze and took out her phone. 2 teens near the candy aisle stepped back, whispering. Malik's hands started to shake, but he raised them slowly. "It's just a hat," he repeated. "It belonged to my father." "But the officers didn't care." "You people always say that," muttered Daniels. Then, without warning, Officer Stevens grabbed Malik's arm and twisted it behind his back. Malik gasped in pain. "What are you doing?" he cried. "You're resisting now?" Daniels shouted as he helped cuff Malik's wrists. "I didn't do anything!" Malik shouted, his voice breaking. "Why are you arresting me?" By now, more customers had pulled out their phones. Mr. Patel came around the counter but stopped when Daniels pointed a finger at him. "Stay out of it." As they dragged Malik out of the store, the small crowd watched in silence. A little girl clung to her mother's hand, asking, "Why are they taking him?" Her mother had no answer. Malik's face was red with shame and fear. He looked around, searching for someone, anyone, to help him. But no one moved. They only watched as the officers pushed him into the back of the police car. Inside the car, Malik's heart pounded. He thought about his mom. She would be so worried. Tears welled in his eyes, but he refused to let them fall. Behind him, the door slammed shut. The police car drove through the streets, its tires crunching against the pavement. Malik sat in the back seat, his hands tightly cuffed behind him. His eyes were wide, filled with confusion and fear. He had never been inside a police car before. He had never even gotten a warning at school. Now, he was being treated like a criminal for wearing a hat. Officer Daniels spoke into the radio. "We've got a possible gang member. Bringing him..." "You know?" Malik leaned forward as much as he could. "Please," he said, "this is a mistake. I haven't done anything." Officer Stevens looked back at him through the mirror. "You can explain it at the station, kid." Malik pressed his head against the window, watching the buildings pass by. He wanted to scream, but he stayed quiet, like his mom had taught him. Be respectful, she always said, even when they're not. Meanwhile, back at home, Malik's mother, Mrs. Thompson, was folding laundry when the phone rang. It was a number she didn't recognize. She answered quickly. Mrs. Thompson, the voice said. This is Officer Peters at the local precinct. Your son, Malik, has been brought in for questioning. Her heart dropped. What? My son? What happened? There was an incident involving suspected gang attire. He's being held for safety reasons while we investigate. That's ridiculous, she snapped. He's just a kid. He doesn't even like violence. I'm on my way. She grabbed her keys, her purse, and rushed out the door. Her hands were shaking as she drove, tears forming in her eyes. Not my son, she whispered. Not Malik. At the police station, Malik sat alone in a cold, gray room. No one spoke to him. No one asked him questions. They just left him there like he didn't matter. The only thing in the room was a table, 2 chairs, and a bright overhead light that made his eyes ache. He thought about his father. His dad had always told him, "You're a strong boy. Don't let the world change your heart." But right now, his heart was full of anger and confusion. Finally, the door opened. Officer Daniels walked in with a notepad in his hand. He sat across from Malik and sighed. You say you're not in a gang? No, sir, Malik replied softly. I'm not. That hat, it belonged to my dad. He passed away last year. Daniels didn't seem moved. And where was your dad from? He worked with the community, he helped people. He even gave food to the homeless every Sunday. Daniels leaned back in his chair. You expect me to believe that? It's the truth, Malik said. Please, I just want to go home. Before Daniels could respond, a knock came at the door. Another officer stepped in and whispered something in his ear. Daniels stood up quickly. Wait here, he ordered. Outside the room, Mrs. Thompson had arrived. She stormed into the station, fire in her eyes. I want to see my son, now, she demanded. Officer Peters tried to calm her. Ma'am, we're handling this. No, she snapped. You made a mistake. He was arrested for wearing a hat. A hat his father gave him before he died. The officers exchanged uncomfortable glances. You people didn't even ask questions, she continued. You saw a black boy with a cap and assumed the worst. Daniels overheard her words and felt something stir inside. He looked down at his badge, then back at the closed door where Malik still sat, waiting alone. Back inside the room, Malik sat quietly, staring at his cuffed hands. The door opened again. This time, it was Officer Stevens. Your mom's here, he said, his voice softer now. Can I see her? Malik asked. Soon, Stevens replied. We're looking into things. Stevens left the room, but Malik could feel something had changed. Meanwhile, in the lobby, more people were arriving. One was a local pastor who knew Malik's family. Another was a neighbor who had seen the arrest at the store. Word had started to spread. And now people were asking questions. The truth was starting to rise. Quiet but powerful. And deep inside the station, Malik waited. He still didn't know what was happening outside, but something told him. This wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. Malik sat on the cold metal chair, rubbing his wrists. The handcuffs had been taken off, but the marks remained. His heart was heavy. Every minute inside that room felt like an hour. No one had told him what was going on. He didn't even know if he would be allowed to go home. Outside the room, the police station was no longer quiet. Mrs. Thompson stood in the hallway, her voice strong and clear. You owe my son an apology, she told Officer Daniels. You arrested him without cause. Daniels looked down, uncomfortable. He had just finished reviewing Malik's record. No school suspensions, no fights, no past arrests, nothing. Just a clean, quiet kid who loved music and reading. And the hat? It wasn't gang-related at all. The design on the side was a custom. Logo? A peace symbol and the initials JT. It stood for James Thompson, Malik's late father. The hat had no ties to gangs. Officer Peters walked over, holding a printout. We ran the hat design through our database, he said quietly. It's not connected to any known gang. Daniels nodded slowly. So? We were wrong, Mrs. Thompson's eyes filled with tears. You weren't just wrong, she said. You treated him like a criminal. You made him feel like he didn't belong here. You humiliated him. At that moment, the local pastor, Reverend Carter, stepped into the station. This isn't just about Malik, he said calmly. This is about how you see boys like him. Scared to give them a chance, quick to accuse. Daniels looked at the floor. The weight of his actions was starting to hit him. Inside the room, the door opened again. Malik looked up, expecting another officer, but this time, it was his mother. "Mom!" he cried out, standing up. She rushed to him and pulled him into her arms. "I'm here, baby, I'm here." He held her tightly, his face buried in her shoulder. "I didn't do anything wrong, Mom, I swear." "I know," she whispered. "You didn't, and now, they know too." Officer Daniels watched through the window, guilt crawling up his spine. Later, the station's police chief, Mr. Hernandez, arrived. He had heard about the arrest and the growing crowd outside. Reporters were beginning to gather. Community members wanted answers. Chief Hernandez walked into the room where Malik and his mother sat. "I'm truly sorry for what happened," he said, his voice serious. "This was a mistake, a big one. Malik, you should have never been brought." Malik looked at the chief with tired eyes. "Why did they think I was dangerous?" he asked. "Just because of a hat?" Chief Hernandez sighed. "Because some people still judge by what they see, not who you are, and that's not fair." He turned to Officer Daniels. "You owe him an apology." Daniels stepped forward. His face was pale. "Malik, I'm sorry. I didn't ask questions. I assumed the worst. That was wrong." Malik didn't say anything at first. He just looked at the officer with quiet strength. Then he said, "I hope next time you ask before you judge." The words hung in the air like a powerful truth. Outside, the story was spreading. People were sharing what had happened. Many were angry, but some were inspired by how calm and brave Malik had been. One of the news reporters outside said, "A boy wrongly accused, who taught grown men a lesson in grace and patience." The town was starting to listen. The police station, once cold and quiet, had become a place of reflection and change. As Mrs. Thompson led Malik out the front door, the crowd clapped quietly. Some held signs. One read, "Justice for Malik." Malik didn't smile. He wasn't proud of what had happened, but he walked with his head high. He had nothing to hide, and the truth? It had finally started to unfold. That night, Malik sat on his bed staring at the ceiling. His mother had made his favorite dinner, mac and cheese with fried chicken, but he barely touched it. His body was home, but his mind was still at that cold police station. His phone buzzed again and again. Messages from classmates, teachers, neighbors. Some said, "We're so sorry, Malik." Others, "I can't believe they did that to you." But then, his best friend Jalen sent him something that made his eyes widen. It was a video, a short, shaky phone recording taken at the gas station, the moment he was arrested. In the clip, Malik is calm, respectful, and clearly confused. Officer Daniels is the opposite, loud, aggressive, pulling Malik by the arm. The video ends with Malik saying, "You've got the wrong guy," just before he's handcuffed. Jalen's message read, "Bro, this is going viral." Malik clicked the link and saw it, over 300,000 views in less than 12 hours. Hundreds of comments. "He was so calm, this is heartbreaking." "Arrested over a hat? Come on, this is 2025. Who's that kid? Someone give him a platform." The story had escaped the small town. Now the whole country was watching. Mrs. Thompson came into the room, holding her phone too. "Honey, they just called from Channel 7 News," she said. "They want to talk to you about everything." Malik looked up, surprised. "Me?" "Yes," she said softly. "People want to hear your side now." The next morning, cameras lined up outside their house. News vans, reporters, microphones. Malik had never seen anything like it. He stood at the front door, nervous but determined. His mom squeezed his shoulder. "You don't have to do this," she said. "I want to," Malik replied. "If I don't, speak now, who will?" In the interview, Malik told his story. He didn't yell, he didn't blame. He simply shared what happened. "I was wearing a hat with my dad's initials. He passed away last year. I wear it to feel close to him. That day, someone saw the color of my skin and a piece of fabric and decided I was a threat." The clip of his interview hit the internet like a firestorm. People began tagging activists, celebrities, politicians. Some wrote articles, others made videos. Everyone had something to say. But one comment stood out the most, from a famous civil rights leader. "This young man showed more dignity in handcuffs than some show in suits. America must do better." Back at the police station, Officer Daniels sat in his office, scrolling through the comments. He couldn't sleep the night before. The moment he arrested Malik kept playing in his head. Now, the world was watching his actions, and not kindly. The police chief walked in. "You're trending for the wrong reasons," he said firmly. "And we need to make things right." "What do you mean?" Daniels asked. "We're going to hold a community town hall tonight," the chief replied. "And you're going to speak." Daniels looked pale. "They hate me. They don't want hate, they want honesty," the chief said. "Start there." That evening, the town's community center was full. Black, white, young, old. Everyone. Gonisi Malik sat in the front row beside his mother. His hat rested on his lap. When Officer Daniels stepped up to the mic, the room fell silent. "I made a mistake," he said slowly. "I judged a young man based on my fears, not facts. And that's not how I was trained. That's not how any officer should act." He turned to Malik. "You gave me a chance to see my bias, and I thank you for that. I'm truly sorry." Malik didn't say anything, but he nodded. And in that quiet nod, something changed. People clapped. Not for Daniels, but for truth. For growth. For courage. Later that night, Malik stood outside the center, breathing in the cool air. Jalen walked up. "You good, man?" Malik nodded. "I think I finally am." He looked up at the sky, then down at his hat. "I wore this to feel close to my dad. But now, I think I wear it for something bigger." Jalen smiled. "You started something, bro." Malik smiled back. "Yeah, but I'm not done yet." 2 days after the town hall, Malik's life had changed completely. He wasn't just the boy who got arrested for a hat anymore. He had become a symbol, a voice for others who were too afraid to speak. His phone didn't stop buzzing. News, channels, podcasts, activists, even schools from other states wanted him to share his story. But Malik didn't let the attention get to his head. He still walked to school with Jalen. He still helped his mom wash dishes after dinner. But inside, he knew things would never be the same again. One morning, as Malik walked into school, something strange happened. The security guard at the front smiled and tipped his hat. The same guard who used to ignore him. Then in first period, his teacher, Ms. Rodriguez, stood in front of the class. "Before we begin," she said, "I want to thank Malik. Your story made many of us realize we haven't been listening enough. So today we're going to start something new, Voices Day. Once a week, one student gets to share something important from their life. Malik, would you start us off?" The class turned to him. Malik hesitated for a second, then nodded. He stood up and took a deep breath. "I want to talk about fear," he said. "Not just being afraid, but how people are afraid of what they don't understand. That fear almost ruined my life. But I don't want revenge. I want change." For the first time ever, his classmates weren't just hearing his words. They were really listening. That afternoon, a black car pulled up outside Malik's house. A woman in a navy blue suit stepped out. She was from the mayor's office. "Malik Thompson?" she asked. "The mayor would like to meet you." Malik looked at his mom, surprised. She nodded. They rode to City Hall in silence. When they arrived, the mayor stood at the steps waiting, with a smile. "Malik," he said warmly, "I've seen what you've done, not just for your school but for the whole town. Malik shrugged. I didn't really do anything. The mayor smiled. You told the truth. That's more than most grown men ever do. He invited Malik inside and offered him something unexpected, a spot on the Youth Advisory Council. You'll help us improve relationships between the police and the community. We need your voice in the room, the mayor said. Malik was stunned. He was just 16, just a kid in a hoodie and sneakers. Now people wanted to hear from him, not because he was famous, but because he spoke with heart. Later that week, Officer Daniels visited Malik's home. It was awkward, quiet. Daniels held a small box in his hand. I found this after the town hall, he said, handing it to Malik. It's your dad's dog tag. It fell out of your hat when we booked your belongings. Malik slowly took the tag, running his fingers over the worn metal. Thanks, he said softly. Daniels looked down. I'm trying, Malik. I know one apology isn't enough, but I've started taking training again. Real training. On bias. On how to actually serve the community. Malik nodded. I hope you stick with it, he replied. Because there are other kids like me out there, and they don't have a video. They don't have a crowd. Daniels met his eyes. I know. And I'll do better. That Sunday, Malik and his mom stood at the community center steps. A banner hung across the front. Unity Day, building a better town together. Hundreds of people gathered, neighbors, police officers, pastors, business owners, kids, reporters. Malik was the guest speaker. He walked up to the mic. Not nervous this time, just honest. A few weeks ago, I was arrested for wearing a hat, he said. That hat belonged to my dad. It also carried my story. I don't want anyone else to go through what I did. So let's not just talk about change. Let's be it. The crowd erupted in applause. After the event, Malik sat on the steps looking at the sunset. Jalen dropped beside him. Dude, you were fire, Malik laughed. You think so? Jalen grinned. Man, even the mayor took notes. Malik looked down at his dad's dog tag still in his hand. Feels like I'm finally walking the path he wanted for me, he said quietly. Jalen looked at him. So, what now? Malik smiled. I think it's time to help more kids tell their stories. It had been 3 months since Malik's wrongful arrest. The video of that day had now been viewed over 2 million times. People from all over the country had messaged him, parents, students, even officers, thanking him for standing strong. But Malik didn't want to be a viral moment. He wanted real change. One cold Saturday morning, Malik sat in the empty gym of his old middle school. In front of him were folding chairs, a small stage, and a banner that read, Project Real Voices, founded by Malik Thompson. It was his own program, a space for teens to share their experiences and learn how to stand up for themselves and each other. His mom entered with 2 large boxes of notebooks. You sure about this? She asked. Malik nodded. Yeah, no one listened to me once. I won't let that happen to these kids. Soon the gym began to fill. Teens of all ages walked in, some curious, some shy, and some carrying the same fear Malik once held. Malik stood on the stage, holding his dad's dog tag. He had worn it every day since Officer Daniels returned it. I started this because I was judged for a hat, Malik began. But it wasn't just about the hat. It was about how people see us before they know us. That needs to change, and it starts with us. The kids listened, not because they had to, but because they felt seen. Outside the gym, a familiar face stood watching through the glass doors. Officer Daniels. This time, no uniform. Just a man holding a notepad and a folder. After the session, Malik stepped outside. Didn't expect to see you, he said. Daniels smiled. I wanted to ask you something. He opened the folder and handed Malik a flyer. Community Reform Task Force, Youth Advisor position open. Think you could help guide us? Daniels asked. We're building new policies, listening more. We could use someone like you in the room. Malik raised an eyebrow. Is this real listening or just for show? Daniels gave a small laugh. Real, I promise. Malik looked at the flyer, then at the teens still laughing inside the gym. I'll do it, but only if you promise to listen, even when it's hard. Daniels nodded. That's the plan. Later that week, Malik sat with Jalen on their favorite rooftop. The city lights flickered below them. You know, Jalen said, this whole thing started with a stupid misunderstanding. But now, look at you. Malik smiled, eyes on the horizon. It wasn't just about me, he said. That day at the gas station, I was scared, man, but I kept thinking about my dad, about how he wore that same hat proudly. He didn't fight with fists, he fought with honor. And I want to do the same. Jalen nodded. He'd be proud, bro. Malik looked down at the dog tag around his neck. I hope so. Weeks turned into months. Malik's story became a case study in schools and police academies. His youth group grew. So did his voice. At one event, he stood on stage with the mayor and police chief. Malik was no longer the boy who got arrested for a hat. He was a leader, a listener, a builder of bridges. On the anniversary of his father's death, Malik visited the old gravesite. He stood silently, hands in his pockets before kneeling beside the headstone. I used to think I didn't have your strength, he whispered. But I found it. The day they tried to silence me, I found your voice inside me. He placed the folded flyer from the police department beside the stone. I'm helping change the system now, Dad, like you tried to. I'm not done yet. As the sun set, Malik walked away from the grave, his shoulders straight and heart steady. A soft wind blew, rustling the trees around him, and in that quiet moment, he felt peace. Not because everything was perfect, but because he had turned pain into purpose and he wasn't done yet.